Hello everybody, my name is Prince Boss, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Last time, we got Mr. Magnus McGilded off, but not before we found out, possibly too late, that Mr. McGilded did in fact do the crime, possibly, which sucks. Now, what are we doing today? Well, we're going to be going on to the fourth case in the adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. And we're going to be doing some investigating, maybe? Who knows? I don't know how we're going to be doing this today, but let's get started in 3, 2, 1. The adventure of the Clouded Kokoro.
I begin to think, Wilson, said Sholmes, turning his head languidly in my direction, that there is more to this case than that which we have observed. Indeed, that there may be another part to this story that we are yet to discover. His eyes wandered, following the steam rising from his cup of herbal tea, leading him to the distant memory of that snowy evening. To the young lady collapsed on the pavement along Briar Road, and to the knife in her back. Lit in the soft glow of gas lamps, a most extraordinary scene had been set. And under the cover of a light fog, the curtain had risen silently on the insoluble mystery of our invisible killer.
Okay, then. February 19th, 9:47 a.m., British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice's office. I guess we're going to be talking to Strongheart again. Gotta get my Australian voice ready. Did you sleep last night, Mr. Naruhodo? No, not at all. It was an enormous hotel, wasn't it? The rooms were so luxurious. I felt like we were staying in a palace. And with all the gas lights twinkling, it was brighter than day, even in the middle of the night. What about the enormous beds? After my time on the SS Burya, I wasn't going to waste a single inch of that space. I spent the entire night rolling from one side of the mattress to the other. Oh yes, it really was the sort of night you can only dream of normally. Except when I learned that we owed £3 for the room, that dream quickly turned into a nightmare. Oops, sorry about that. The building was so impressive and the entrance so inviting, I just wandered in without thinking. In a lodging house in Japan, that sum of money would put a roof over your head for a whole year. I did try, but I'm afraid I couldn't help my tears when we were presented with the bill. I really am sorry. Well, never mind. We must find some more affordable lodging straight away, though. If we're not careful, our entire stipend will be used up in 10 days or less. London is a scary place. Oh, good morning to you at this early hour. It was him. Oh, yes. Well. Good morning to you, Lord Chief Justice. We have come to report on the outcome of the trial at the Old Bailey yesterday. Sasada-san is amazing. She doesn't even bat an eyelid, even in the presence of the imposing Lord Strongheart. Yes, I believe you had a very comprehensive initiation into British courtroom practices. Oh, yes, it was very eye-opening. Thank you. And in accordance with your instructions, Lord Strongheart, Mr. Naruhodo performed his duty to the end. Yes, I've already been apprised of the events. You conducted a remarkable defense. You may consider the test passed. Oh. No longer are you a student from the Empire of Japan. You may henceforth claim to be a fully fledged lawyer. My country is delighted to welcome your talent from such a remote eastern island. Thank you very much. So, I'm a lawyer now. Now, In view of your new employment, I have a fresh case in mind for you. I'd like you to take it on at once. I trust that won't be a problem. Another case? Already? Nothing trains a lawyer better than practical experience. I'm sure I don't sense dissatisfaction, do I? It's just that yesterday's trial ended unusually. I haven't quite come to terms with it. What's to come to terms with? The man was cleared. What more were you hoping for? Truth. That's what I was hoping for. The truth. No. The culpability of the defendant has not, at the present time, been established by this court. Consequently, the jury will not be required to pre-offer judgment. Well, Lord Van Zykes, it's been a pleasure, so it has. As for you, my dear fella, I couldn't have asked for a better defense. Oh boy. I just can't help wondering if Mr. McGilded really was innocent. Mr. Naruhodo! It's just that I never managed to ascertain the truth. And then the trial ended. Well, he ain't let trouble you for a second longer. Sorry. What do you mean, Lord Strongheart? Magnus McGill had passed away, immediately following the trial. Oh. He's dead. No! What? Mr. McGilded is dead? I have 19 minutes and 41 seconds until my next engagement. Time enough to talk. What the fuck? So he's dead. I don't understand. What happened? How could he be dead? After the trial concluded yesterday, there was a great commotion in the Old Bailey. As you'll presumably recall, an omnibus had been wheeled into the courtroom. Yes, of course, that was the scene of the crime which Mr. McGilded had been accused of. Precisely. Well, while the bailiff's attention was diverted by some other matter, the omnibus went up in flames. No. How could such a thing have happened? That is being investigated as we speak, but already... Police have identified a corpse found inside the charred shell of the carriage as that of Mr. McGilded. That's awful! The man must have slipped inside whilst the bailiff's attention was elsewhere. That bailiff really needs to pay more attention. And how could that have happened? That is also being investigated as we speak. Thinking back now, immediately after the trial, Mr. McGilded did mention going back into the courtroom to look at the omnibus. Well, I must be making tracks now. It is time for the inspection. Sorry, what inspection? They're going to be examining the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself. An inspection of the omnibus? Not to my knowledge. I don't believe Scotland Yard had any intention of re-examining the carriage. But then who was Mr. McGilded talking about? Never mind that now. The Yard is making a thorough investigation. This matter is no longer any concern of yours. Leave it to the police. Poor Mr. McGilded. British court. So, how did you find your first taste of our country's Supreme Court? Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it was... wow! Mr. Naruhodo means that the whole experience was steeped in the solemnity... What? Solemnity? What? Solemnity of Great Britain's long history. It's really a world apart from our own judicial system in Japan, which is only a few short decades old. Wow, Sasato-san has such a way with words. And you seem to have a way of failing to find the right ones. How can you read my mind? You're like Maya. The judicial system here is the most advanced in the world. Learn all you can. The most advanced in the world, is it? Haven't been to America, baby. It was fortunate that your very first trial was a simple affair. Simple? That was simple? As I believe I mentioned yesterday morning, it was a trial you couldn't lose. I don't mean to be contrary, Dr. Lolly Strongheart, but that case was anything but simple. Uh-oh. The circumstances of the case were so incriminating, I was stunned when I first heard them. In fact, I'm still finding it hard to believe that we managed to get a favorable verdict. Is something funny? No, my apologies. However, the fact is that you did receive the not guilty verdict you set out to achieve. And that can only be attributed to exceptional talent. Wouldn't you agree? Well, I don't know about that. Well, never mind. You exceed my expectations, I freely admit. That much, at least, is an undeniable truth. Which is precisely why I prepared the new case for you, that I mentioned before. What's going on? What has he got to say before? What was he going to say before? What's the new case about? Could you perhaps give us some more details about the new case you mentioned? Don't tell me. It's a murder, and the trial starts in 10 minutes. Don't worry, it's not so alarming or quite so urgent as your last assignment. Okay, that was just getting Irish. Hold up. Calm down. In fact, this case is completely different. Oh, I see. Did he just read my mind? That is to say, no one has died. As yet. And the trial will not be today. There's plenty of time to research the case thoroughly. 23 hours, 43 minutes, and 19 seconds to be precise. So the trial's tomorrow then. Is everything alright? Oh, yes, I'm just a little confused, that's all. Yesterday's trial was... well, it's left me wondering if I'm really out for being a lawyer. Cut out for being a lawyer. Oh, Miss Naruhodo. I don't know if I could face standing in that courtroom again after Mr. McGilded's trial. Ah, yes, I nearly forgot. There's one similarity with yesterday's case. Once again, there's currently no one to advocate for the defense. Oh. If the situation remains unchanged, the trial will start tomorrow with the defendant unrepresented. And if that happens, I need not remind you of the inevitable outcome. The most terrible end awaits the defendant. Yes, that's right. Ugh, here we go again. Your time's up. You'll have to excuse me. I would advise you to begin making preparations for tomorrow's trial. After all, the clock is ever ticking. Now it's got back to Irish. These are now but 23 hours, 26 minutes, and 93 seconds until the court sits. Last time he mentions the 23 hours, he said that there was plenty of time. And one more thing, Miss Naruhodo. There's something I should like to ask you. Oh, what's that? Yesterday, you remarked upon something... that you intend to say through the will of your late compatriot, Mr. Sogi. Uh-oh. What's he gonna say? I would be interested in hearing what exactly you mean by that. Inside 34 seconds. Oh, well, Kazuma always used to say, you see, that he wanted to learn how the greatest justice system in the world works so he could change ours in Japan. And now that he's gone, I'd like to work towards that myself. And there's another thing. Oh! Another thing. continue. On the way here, on the steamship, he said something to me. There's something very important that I have to do. Something very important. And what exactly would that be? He never had a chance to tell me. I suppose he would have done if you had time. Well, thank you for an enlightening discussion. Miss Naruhodo, what's all this about? Mr. Asogi never once mentioned anything of the sort to me. I urge you both to focus your attentions on the matter at hand. Oh. I've taken liberty to summon the police inspector in charge of the case. He'll be able to apprise you of the details. How long has he been there? So, I wish you the best of luck, and bid you farewell. Okay. Nice. There's something very important that I have to do. Kazuma-sama, what did you mean? I wish I knew, but honestly, he never told me. Anyway, we had better talk to the detective, don't you think? Yes, you're right. Alright. I hope I'm just imagining it, but I wouldn't say he looks pleased to see us at all. Does he have French fries in his hand? Sorry, crisps, as the British like to say. He does have crisps. Could we trouble you? What do you think? Ah! Well, lovely weather, isn't it? What's the weather got to do with anything? Ah! Listen to me, you young Japanese upstart. Some frippery about the weather doesn't get every English chit eaten out your hand, you know. But Sasada-san told me it was foolproof. I'm a busy man. I'm a very busy man. There's a crime scene to investigate, but I'm here having to give the likes of you talking to. Oh, I'm ever so sorry. Can you imagine what the other officers will be saying, Haven't seen Gregson anywhere, have you? No, he's too busy with the bigwigs these days. And all because of some bumpkin who's here on a jaunt from a country I've never even heard of. Hear that ripping sound? That's my reputation at the yard going to tatters. There's no need to rip us apart as well. I don't believe we've been introduced. This is Mr. Ryunosuke Naruhodo, a defense lawyer. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Miss Naruhodo's judicial assistant, It's lovely weather we're having today, isn't it? Oh, what? It is unseasonably fine, I grant you. London's weathers don't see a lot of sunshine. Unbelievable! How did she pull that off? So, Lord Stronghold asked me to fill in for you on the case. The name's Tobias Gregson. Inspector Gregson, are you? I'm from Scotland Yard. Gregson? Inspector Gregson? What's the matter with Sasado-san? Does this detective's name mean something to her? Let's ask him about his name. Inspector, are you perhaps the Inspector Gregson? Is he eating like a chicken nugget with fries? Whoa, wait, it came back? Hold up. How'd he do that? Whoa! Pretty cool. You're acting like you know this man, Mrs. Sato, but he's a London detective. Oh, I do know him. Very well, in fact. Very well? Yes, he's featured prominently in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Oh, in that publication. What's it called again? Rance Magazine? That's right. Inspector Gregson and Mr. Sholmes enjoy a wonderful, friendly rivalry. Really? Oh, really? You rival the great Mr. Sholmes? That's incredible. Oh, well, I don't know about that. Mr. Sholmes ain't a professional like myself, of course. Alright, now it's just gone to American. But he does come up with the goods from time to time. That doesn't sound like an inspector voice. Let me come up with one real quick. Mr. Sholmes is equally complimentary about you, Inspector, isn't he? You've earned his highest praise. Gregson is the pick of a bad lot of all the Scotland Yarders. Those are his own words. That's his highest praise. Well, Mr. Sholmes isn't particularly known for giving compliments, you see. That he is not. And thanks to that magazine, my name's known all over London town now. I'm just gonna give him that. Fuck it. And that's great, isn't it? I have to admit, to start with, I was a little, well, flattered by all the attention. Everyone wanted to shake my hand, and my reputation at the yard went through the roof. Well, that's wonderful. No, it is not. There's nothing more sinister than the man on the street. People are always looking at me now. Now they're whispering rumors about me under their breath, I'm sure. Rumors? Are you quite sure? He's changed since he started appearing in those stories. The fame's gone to his head. Stuff like that. Gosh, do you really think people are saying such mean-spirited things about you? Like I said, they whisper, so I can't catch exactly what they're saying. But I know what folks are like. I'm sure that's what they're saying. As sure as egg is egg. I get the feeling this detective could be very hard work. Oh dear, perhaps a sudden rise to fame does change people. Let's go to the case. Yeah. So, about the case that the Lord Chief Justice mentioned before. Nothing to tell, really. As far as we're concerned at the yard, it couldn't be simpler. Oh dear, that probably means that as far as we're concerned as lawyers, it couldn't be more complicated. I wish you were wrong about that, but I have a nasty feeling you're right. A young woman was walking along the pavement on Briar Road when she was stabbed from behind. Fortunately, it wasn't fatal, but she's still laid up in hospital, unconscious. That's despicable! What sort of coward would attack the poor woman from behind? I suppose you would have finished whoever it was off with a Susato takedown, would you? That is neither here nor there, Miss Naruhodo. Brace yourself, Ryunosuke. You've angered her now. Anyway, after something of a whirlwind investigation, the criminal was arrested. He barely had time for a cup of tea after the incident took place, to be honest. So, there must have been something left at the scene that led you directly to the culprit? Or perhaps a reliable witness who recognized the person in question? Let me stop you right there. You're wasting your time on this one. Sorry? There's nothing you can do. There's no way to help the bloke now. Why ever not? Simple. The prosecutor has been assigned to this trial, and tomorrow is Lord Baron von Zeyck. No! Sounds like you've heard of him, then. Oh, yes. We are very familiar with Lord Van Zeyck's. Believed to be the harbinger of death itself. The Reaper of the Bailey. Lord Baron von Zeyck, who we faced in court only yesterday. Mr. McGill had told us about him before the trial, didn't he? Oh boy. When Van Zeyck stands for the prosecution, they call the accused his sacrificial lambs. And in every single trial in which he's been the prosecutor, the accused has been damned. This Reaper of the Bailey nickname, I suppose he's earned that because every defendant he advocates against is found guilty, is it? Well, if that's the case, we should inform you, Inspector, that in yesterday's trial against Lord Van Zeyck, Miss Naruhodo secured a verdict of not guilty. And what of it? Oh, well, I think that means that even against the Reaper of the Bailey, it's not impossible to save the defendant. Nah, you really don't have a clue, do you? What do you mean?
What happened to that bloke in the end, huh? He's dead. Ah, Agnes McGilda came a cropper in that omnibus when it went up in flames. So you can't rightly say that you saved the defendant, can you? What are you saying? Look, if Van Zykes could get the dirt to stick on everyone, he'd be a miracle worker. But that's not how it goes. He doesn't work miracles, he works magic. Black magic. I'd have a good long think about that if I were you. Are we really supposed to believe that? Alright, so from here on out, any British voice that I already have, I'm keeping. Any other British person coming across, I'm not going to do. My throat is killing me for doing British voices. Right, well, I've filled you in as requested, and I'm very nearly out of chips. So I'll be heading back to the crime scene now. We're still carrying out a few investigations there.
It was Briar Road, you said, didn't you? Where the incident took place.
That's correct, ma'am. And if you head over to the holding cells, you can meet the criminal himself. You branded him a criminal already? He's as good as. Shaking like a leaf in his cell, he is. It'll give you a chuckle, if nothing else. He's inmate 53. Speak to the jailer, and he'll show you the way.
Inmate 53. Thank you. So there's no helping anyone against the Reaper of the Bailey, they say. Is something troubling you, Miss Naruhodo? To tell you the truth, when I recall the trial yesterday, I can't stop myself from shaking. The idea of facing the Reaper in court again is... Well, if you think it's too much for you, there's no shame in turning the case down. That takes courage, too.
Aw, man, I'm not a pussy. But if the man they've arrested is innocent, you could well imagine he would be shaking like a leaf in his cell. And I, for one, wouldn't find the sight of that funny.
So...
If I'm honest, I'm still reeling from the shock of yesterday's events myself. And I'm really not sure if I'll be able to help this man, whoever he is. But I'd like to try, so I think I'm going to make some inquiries. Will you help?
Did you really think you had to ask? After all, I am your judicial assistant.
Thank you. So then, shall we?
Yes. Let's go.
She's so cute. For age. Let's go to Briar Road first. Strand Street, alright? My, this is a bad part of town. Huh. I see. Is that supposed to be a reference to Robin Williams? That is, that's nice. So this is where it happened. Briar Road.
Ah! Look, Miss Naruhodo! Look at that regulation metal helmet! It's unmistakable! Men of Scotland Yard are here. They're investigating as we speak.
That is their job, you know.
But Miss Naruhodo, to see one with my own eyes. They're often depicted in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, but I never dreamt I'd ever come this close. To a real Bobby's helmet.
What? The helmet?
Of course! I have to try one on one day.
Well, I hope your Hattie dreams comes true. I don't see Inspector Gregson anywhere. Shall we see if we can sneak past and investigate the scene of the stabbing?
Why should we sneak?
I don't want to upset one of the Bobbies and be bunted on the head with one of those metal helmets. My skull would crack in two, I'm sure.
Oh no, an English Bobby would never do such a thing. This is a land of gentlemen, you know.
Uh-huh. Got it. Alright, let's examine. Over here first.
Whoa, a British bicycle, look! Although the wheel is so misshapen, I'm sure it couldn't possibly be ridden anymore.
Someone must have been doing some breakneck cycling.
It seems bicycles have become extremely popular in London recently. There's even a movement to change women's dress to allow them to ride as well.
The bicycle fad won't last. I don't see why anyone would want to ride something like that.
Goodness, do you dislike bicycles?
No, not at all. I mean, it's not that I dislike them exactly. It's just that any occupation that involves taking both your feet off firm ground seems reckless. If you'd ever tried walking on stilts and fallen into a river, I know you would agree with me.
We'll have to hire a bicycle sometime. You can sit behind me while I ride you around.
No. I guess we might as well just be over here.
What a delightful snowman.
I didn't realize the English had a tradition of making snowmen as well. It looks a little creepy though.
Oh, it has a scarf, look!
You'd need one if you were out here in this freezing cold all the time. I wish I had one.
I'm afraid our budget is somewhat frozen at the moment, too. We certainly can't afford a scarf.
Surely the snowman here wouldn't miss his.
But the person who made the snowman certainly would.
Yes, I know. You're right. Anyway, even if I borrowed it, it wouldn't do much to warm my neck, would it? It's covered in snow. Let's talk to the Bobby. That's one of the officers from Scotland Yard. The police are making sure the crime scene is undisturbed. I have a feeling that if we wander too close, we'll be clamped in irons.
I think perhaps you're being a little overcautious. We've done nothing wrong, so we have no cause for concern.
Oh no, I'm not getting caught out again. Twice is enough. Twice I find myself in handcuffs despite not knowing a thing about what's going on.
Yes, you've had some dreadful experiences. I'm sure that it's that wide-eyed look of panic you're so prone to. It does you no favors at all.
Ugh. Can I talk to this Bobby? No. Robin Williams. Tree.
Oh, that's the Scotland Yard carriage. They use vehicles like this to rush to crime scenes and cart away criminals.
You're very well informed, aren't you?
It's long been a dream of mine to ride one of those through the streets of London.
Well, just pick up a stone and throw it through one of the windows, then.
But that would mean being arrested in order to ride it, wouldn't it? Still, if it's the only way, help me find a good stone.
No, I wasn't serious. Can I talk to him? Nope, fuck. Didn't mean to click on it again. I don't think we're gonna get anywhere by coming here first. I think? Yeah, we're not gonna get anywhere by just being here. Let's go to the prison. Let's talk to our client. Oh my. February 19th, local prison, cell 9. So, these are British prison cells.
Oh, they're ghastly. Feels like it's a dungeon.
Yes, and having experienced it in Japan myself, I can assure you that our wooden cells feel a lot cozier than these stone-cold walls.
Oh, don't, Miss Naruhodo. You're making it seem worse.
Apparently, our client is in this cell here. But it's so dark in the back there, I can't make him out. I wonder what he's like. Inmate 53, your legal representation is here to see you. Stop hiding in the back of the cell and show your face at once.
Am I
a cat? As yet with no name. Call me by a number. It's utterly unbelievable, unjustly, unreasonable. I refuse to answer.
Mr. Naruhodo, what? What do you think is going on here?
I have no idea. But I wasn't just hearing things, was I? That triad of complaints was in Japanese. Oh, hello. Oh, you're the guy from the trailers. Excuse me, but who? Shh, quiet. They're all around, hiding. I know they are. They're watching, listening. Even now, I can sense it. Right. So, could I ask you, who exactly? There you are. You've come to curse me, haven't you? Don't try to hide it. You're a ghost. Ghost? This guy is insane.
We mean you no harm, prisoner-san. Are you Japanese by any chance?
This is beyond my wildest dreams. Uh-oh. Sada, what did you do? Forgive me for that outburst before. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's fine. We're just a little surprised, that's all. Imagine it! It's been 12 long months since I left my hometown, and here I am, in a frightful fixer in a foreign land. So hearing the sweet, sentimental tones of a compatriot's voice here in this damn dark hellhole was a most monumentally moving moment! What the fuck is going on? Who could have guessed that this new client Lord Strongheart assigned us to would turn out to be a fellow Japanese? What compassion my fellow countrymen show. Dispatch a first-class lawyer all the way from Japan to defend a mere foreign student. You're a student too? Noble, nurturing, never-failing, Nippon! A first-class lawyer? Oh dear. I think we've been somewhat of a misunderstanding. Yeah, there's been a misunderstanding here.
I wonder, would you be so kind as to tell us what happened? Why you've been detained as a suspect, for example?
Yes, I can, I will. Stand, stay, sullen, and silent.
What is up with this guy?
This guy is so weird, dude.
I'm not quite sure I understand what he means, but he seems happy.
Yes, he does. I just hope he actually has a good reason to be. Thank you for your cooperation. I'm a lawyer, as I said. As you said, my name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
And I am Naruhodo-san's judicial assistant, Susato Mikotoba.
I am a visiting student sent here by our government. Notoriously named Natsume. Soseki Natsume. You're a student. With that mustache? Hell yeah. Soseki Natsume-san. What an unusual name. Call me Soseki, please. I'm a poet, you see. A writer of haiku. It's something of a nom de plume. A nom de plume? You mean an alias?
That's right, Naruhodo-san.
No! Don't be so prosaic. I'm much more refined than that. And haiku, that really reminds me of home.
Did I hear you say that you were a visiting student sent over here by the government?
Yes, that's right. A year ago I was told to go and study English. First I had to suffer that misery, and now this is beyond the pale. Suffer that misery? Did you not want to study here? No, I mean, I've had an interest in Great Britain for some years, of course. Oh. But just because the government tells you to do something doesn't mean you can do it. No.
What do you mean?
If they told me to study English literature, that I could have understood. That's my field. No, they told me to study the English language. Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly, unreasonable. What is wrong with this guy? I see. Only the other day I was told to send a report about my first year here. I tendered a blank piece of paper. Wise words on white washing. Fuck.
You must be a man of great standing.
Oh yes, so I'm often told. And often like to be told, it seems. The accusations against you.
Could you perhaps tell us exactly why you've been arrested, Soseki-san?
I didn't do it. I didn't commit that atrocious murder.
Murder?
Oh, no, it's alright. The woman didn't actually die, did she? But she was stabbed with a knife right before my eyes.
Before your eye?
Oh, sorry, that's me. Before your eyes. You mean you saw the attacker? I didn't see anyone. What? If I'd seen the person who did it, do you think I'd be locked up in here?
Oh dear, it seems this case is becoming rather complicated.
Why me? Why me? Why did that silly woman have to be stabbed in front of me? It's the curse of London. It's incredibly, unexcusably, irritatingly inconvenient. So Seki-san was there at the scene, but he didn't see the attacker.
It's vital that we find out more about the case.
I don't want to talk to this guy anymore. Guess that's what I have to do, though. It was an accursed evening, just after the snow outside, the clear and heavy with fog. I had been to the bookshop to buy some books, and I was on my way back to the accursed lodgings. Sure the bookshop wasn't accursed too? As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was. And just as I went to overtake her, suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed on the cold, hard slabs of stone at my feet. Oh god, he's freaking the fuck out.
How terrible.
So I called out to the woman, but she didn't move. It was like a ghostly, ghoulish, grim graveyard. What's wrong with this guy? Slight exaggeration there, perhaps. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. So I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my cursed lodgings. That's not good. They'll say it was shameful, I know, to run away like that.
Tell me, Soseki-san, was the victim an acquaintance of yours?
Don't be ridiculous. You think I know any of these fair-haired English? And the young woman at that? I'm diffident, shy, timid, unsure. I can't talk to people. I see. A young woman, unknown to Soseki-san. And at the time it happened, who else did you see nearby? Did anybody pass you? Regrettably, apart from myself and the woman, I didn't see a soul. No one? Oh, great.
So the victim was unknown to you, and there was nobody else on the street at the time. That creates something of a conundrum, doesn't it?
Yeah. What conundrum? Oh, come on. You don't know the conundrum, dude? What did you mean, Sasada-san? What's the conundrum?
Well, if what Soseki-san has just told us is true, there's something I can't explain. He says that he doesn't know the victim, and that there was no one else at the scene. And then he apparently fled without even being seen.
I did. But if that's the case, surely this man has to be the culprit? Ah! You! What are you gonna say? Nothing! I didn't say anything! Oops. Perhaps I thought that a little too loudly.
Actually, that's not what was troubling me. What I was thinking was, how did Soseki-san actually come to be arrested?
Sorry?
He didn't touch the victim, and there was nobody at the scene to see him. So how did the police ever discover that he was there in the first place?
Oh yes, she's right. Let me guess. There was snow and then the footprints. It was him. That accursed great detective. He led the police to me. Of all the bad luck. Accursed great detective. Could it be? I should never forget the man's name as long as I live. With his hearty laugh and his self-proclaimed greatness. Brash, big-headed, fussy boy, be gone! May you be cursed until the end of your days, Airlock Jones! I knew it! Fucking Airlock Jones!
Mr. Sholmes?
It's the second time he's put someone in fucking cuffs that didn't deserve it. Be the first one. Well, I didn't expect to hear that name from this man's lips, that's for sure. It was the morning after that nightmare had unfolded on the pavement before me. I was gnawing on a sliver of hot cheese when some men suddenly burst in through the door. They started shouting at me, "This is the police, put the weapon down!" Yes, it was a thin sliver, and yes, it was hard, but I wasn't eating a weapon! Disgusting! Dietary discrimination! Devils! What the fuck is going on with this guy? He is confusing me. You clearly had a trying morning yesterday. And there he was, in the middle of all the policemen, grinning like a Cheshire cat! That Airlock Sholmes! It's actually Herlock Sholmes. He's English. I've since found out that he's a famous name in detection here in London.
Yes, the great detective is really well known.
And his overly sharp mind developed to deduce my whereabouts apparently. He thinks I'm the knife-wielding madman. Me, this week's stoop kitten of a man. I wonder what great deduction process led him to this conclusion this time.
Do you mean to say that Mr. Sholmes' deduction was the only reason the police arrested you? That would be really most unreasonable.
Well, the thing is, I was thrown to a panic when they barged in.
Of course you were. That's only natural.
I was terrified and trembling, and they kept throwing questions after question after question at me in impossible English. Fiendish poet film flammery. Well, we are in England. You can't really blame them for questioning you in English. Good point. But my mind went blank. I knew I had to answer, but I didn't know what to say. So I just kept repeating things like, "Yes, I do," and "I'm fine." The next thing I knew, I was in manacles. Before I knew it, I was thrown in here.
Oh dear, I'm afraid that's hardly surprising.
I'm fine? He's not fine now. Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire! Oh, you can just call me Naruhodo. And when we're speaking English, a simple Mr. is more than enough. Oh, yes, alright, yes. They've really got to me. This country is poisoning my mind. Uh-huh. Okay. Oh, please, I beg you to defend me in court tomorrow. You can tell them what really happened. You'll do it, won't you? Well, Why? Why is it so hard to say yes to me? Well, the thing is, I'm just a student like yourself, on a study tour. A student? I have defended a case in the Old Bailey. Only the one, though. But at this moment in time, I really don't know what I'm supposed to believe in. I'm confused about what justice in this country even means.
Oh, Naruhodo-san.
I'm not even the foreign student who was supposed to be here. I'm sort of a locum lawyer, I suppose. But I thought all that. That's the mark of a defense lawyer from a great empire. It's a keepsake from the man who should have been here. He was my best friend. A keepsake? I know. exactly what they're saying about me.
Oh, what do you mean?
The lawyers, all the British defense lawyers, they won't defend me.
Goodness, why do you say that?
For the same reason as you noted before. When it happened, there was only one victim and myself around, and I ran away from the scene of the crime. I'm not a fool. I know it looks as though I must have been the culprit. It must be very hard for you, Saseki-san. And anyway, I'm a student from overseas. I'm just a foreign nobody to them. Someone to not be trusted. I heard them openly laughing about me before, in my earshot, without any compunction at all. Any trial for this man would be a waste of time, they said, and of course the foreigner did it. They even had the gall to say, that man doesn't understand half of what's being said anyway. That's awful. They're wrong. I study more English than half of the policemen out there on the streets. I've traveled halfway around the world to learn about these people's country and its great history. But no one here wants to listen to a man with a strange accent. They all hate me. So, at the very least, I'd like to entrust my fate to someone who can listen to me in my native tongue. You could see it, couldn't you? When I looked into your eyes, I can see it. I can see what you've been through. Seki-san, it's just that... This guy's weird. Give me a little time, please. I'll do what I can, for the time being. What do you mean?
We shall investigate the case as thoroughly as possible. If we can find some clues, it will give us a much better chance, I'm sure.
Oh yes, thank you! I'll be here, all alone, waiting for you. Welcome student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire.
We should be going then, Naruhodo-san. We have a case to prepare for.
Thank God we can leave this guy. My throat is killing me. My throat. Let's get the fuck out of here and let's go back to Briar Road. Oh, he's here. Oh, I can use my normal voice finally. What's the Japanese delegation doing here?
Oh, Inspector Gregson.
This isn't one of the tourist trail. This isn't on the tourist trail, as I'm fairly sure you're well aware.
Yes, of course. We're here to investigate.
So you've been to the holding cells then? What you make of the criminal?
He's not a criminal, as you put it, Inspector. He's a suspect.
We'll see about that. You Japanese like to stick together, I suppose. Well, do what you will. Well, it doesn't bother me. The bloke's in court tomorrow, whatever happens anyway. And the verdict is a foregone conclusion. That stone-cold air of rejection.
Hey, Cart, London at this time of year is full of stone-cold air.
That makes it worse somehow. Do you have anything new to say? Probably not. Let's examine the scene of the crime.
Patch of pavement must be where the incident occurred. Yes, it's a very wide open space, isn't it?
That's true. I can't see anywhere an attacker could have been hiding. Oi, what are you boys doing there?
Ah!
Oh, we, just investigating the scene, officer. Conspiring with that mustache fella from Japan, are you? Conspiring? Come here to destroy evidence, have you? Get out of here before I give you a nod. Go on.
You shoot us away like rats.
Yes, we should give him a wide berth, I think.
What a disappointing experience.
Mrs. Sato, it's okay. We can tell him to screw off next time. You know, like normal people. Anything else I can examine over here that I haven't already done so? There are piles of snow on the pavement here and there, but the road itself is covered in carriage tracks.
It seems carriages often travel down Briar Road. It soon disperses all the snow.
I slept over when I was walking down the pavement earlier. Seems like it would be far safer to walk on the road instead.
Oh, but you're rather small, Miss Naruhodo, and dressed in all black. I worry coachmen might not see you and you could be flattened by horses.
Well, thank you for the rather small concern. Alright, well...
It's a rather typical old brick building, isn't it? I'm sure it has a long and interesting history.
Well, time certainly seems to have taken its toll on the place. It's crooked and sagging all over. In fact, it looks in decidedly worse shape than the other houses around here.
We must find some cheaper lodging ourselves as soon as possible.
Yes, you're right. Cheap, but ideally with reasonably level floors. Oh, look at the windows of that building there.
Are you sure they're windows?
Yes, but they're all filled in with bricks.
Oh, you're right. I wonder why. Perhaps it's an empty property where nobody lives in the moment?
There's smoke coming from the chimneys, though.
Oh dear, everything feels so very foreign. There's so much we have to learn about this place.
That I see is true. Oh, seems like it's torn off the hinges, basically. The clouds look so big and heavy in the sky, don't they? And with the dense fog as well, everything looks hazy.
Well, it is known as Foggy London Town.
I can just make out some sort of spire through the fog. It looks like it's still being built, though.
Aha! Yes, that must be the Crystal Tower, being built for the great exhibition that's to open in 6 months' time. Apparently it's going to be very striking, glazed on all sides, and the symbolic centerpiece of the exhibition.
It's to be the largest exposition in history, is it? I can't even begin to imagine it. Do you see all the black smoke rising from the chimneys over there?
It says here that in Great Britain, many people heat their homes in winter using coal.
The only chimneys I really remember seeing in Japan were on top of the bathhouse. Do you think some of those houses could be on fire?
Not at all.
Well, even so, that much thick smoke billowing up to the heavens is surely going to turn the whole sky black sooner or later.
Gosh, you may be right about that.
It's supposed to be like a joke on global warming. Not like a joke, but like a punch in the gut. Doesn't look like we can interact with anything else. Right. Alright, let's present the, Inspector Gregson, can I show you this? Am I supposed to know what that is? I've never seen that insignia before. It's worn by defense lawyers in the Empire before. It's a symbol of their profession. In other words, it's a worthless trinket here in Great Britain. Oh no, it's very important to me. It shows my spirit. An English gentleman keeps things like his spirit very much to himself, you know. Oh.
Don't give up, Miss Naruhodo.
It's too late. He's crushed my spirit already. I guess I can't have people. Let's talk with him, I guess.
Tell me about Scotland Yard, Inspector. Ever since I read about it in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, I've been fascinated by the place.
Yard. It's the most sophisticated policing organization you'll find anywhere in the world, ma'am.
Oh, and you know, I've always dreamt about wearing a real Bobby's helmet.
It does make them look the part, seeing the policeman there with the helmet on. You certainly get the sense that this is a man who will take no nonsense in his duty of protecting the city. I can't speak.
Oh yes, doesn't he look wonderful?
Being a London Bobby's hard going, I can tell you.
Oh really?
First thing in the morning, you know what he does? Goes around and rouses all the laborers on his beat so they can get off to work.
What? He wakes people up?
Yep. Raps on their windows and with a long pole. Yeah, myself going back a bit.
I had no idea.
Bobby works for the people of the town. Just another one of his duties. After that, he starts tirelessly patrolling the streets all day long. He has to cover 20 miles a day. That's the regulation distance. I can't really imagine how far that is, but it sounds like a long way.
But you see, 20 miles, that's approximately the distance from Tokyo to Yokohama.
On foot? That's definitely taking things a step too far. When it gets dark, of course, he has the most important job of lighting on the gas street lamps.
Oh my.
And I suppose in between all those duties, Bobbies are expected to investigate cases as well?
And chase after criminals trying to evade the law.
I'm not sure you could call it in between exactly. More alongside, but yes. They're expected to handle those jobs as well. They do have men kneeling over from time to time, I admit.
I'd always dreamed of wearing one of those helmets, as I said. But it's with a heavy heart that I shall have to relinquish that dream to you, Mr. Naruhodo.
Your heavy heart will be my heavy head if you do. What about the case? Happened around 5 in the evening, 2 days ago. Just there, on that open bit of pavement. The victim, a young woman, was stabbed with the blade from behind. Is it right that the lady is still unconscious now? You mentioned that she's being treated in the hospital. I never said she was a lady. Truth is, unless she comes around pretty smartish, we won't be able to find out that much about her at all. I suppose that means I haven't been able to take a statement from her, of course. Here's a map of the local area I happen to have on me. You can take it if you want.
Really? Are you sure?
It's yard police. It's yard policy to give lawyers defending suspects the odd bit of information to go on. I haven't actually accepted the job yet, but still.
Thank you, Inspector. We gratefully accept.
Alright, so we got the map. Got it. Anyway. As far as we know, there was no one else on the scene other than the victim and your fellow countrymen. So who did it, do you think? Not much of a head-scratcher, is it?
Well, I know Mr. Natsumi is also claiming not to have seen anyone else around, but just because he didn't see anyone, it doesn't mean that we can't be sure that nobody else was present.
Sorry to have to tell you, but we most certainly can be sure.
How?
Because, ma'am, the precise moment of the stabbing didn't go unnoticed.
What?
We have 2 very reliable witnesses known this. It was a typical foggy London day, and your client obviously didn't see them.
There were witnesses now?
Who are these witnesses, Inspector? A fellow and his wife, and the man's one of the most reliable and respected citizens in all of London. He's a copper from Scotland Yard. A policeman? That might change things.
And this policeman just happened to be there at the exact moment the woman was attacked?
Nothing peculiar about that, ma'am. Part and parcel of being a bobby. Catching them banging the act and all that. Do you think it might be possible for us to ask that policeman a few questions? Be my guest. You can ask him what you like. In court tomorrow. Oh. I have no doubt he'll be summoned as a witness. So that'll give you something to look forward to. That's that, then. He's got no intention of letting us meet the man beforehand, it seems.
A policeman witnessed the incident. As your judicial assistant, I must warn you that this could make our job very difficult indeed.
Yes, as a non-judicial assistant, I could have warned me of that too. Oh yes, one more thing, Inspector. What? The person who led you to that suspect. I heard that was Mr. Herlock Sholmes. What are you bringing him up for? Was it something I said? The color is drained from his cheeks. Before I ask, that twitchy Japanese bloke goes on trial tomorrow. Are you going to be defending him or not? Well, make no difference to me. Well, I just say this. No London lawyer worth his salt would touch that case with a barge pole. Because the prosecution is being handled by the Reaper of the Bailey, you mean? There's no way to save the man now. It's a waste of time trying. It is all but a bit strange, though. Sorry? The Reaper. He hasn't appeared in court once for a good few years now.
Yes, we did hear something to that effect.
And the only people he usually bothers with are the real scum. The master criminals. The violent ones.
Master criminals? The violent ones?
That's right. He handpicks his victims. Only deals with those guaranteed to go to the gallows for their sins. But Mr. Natsumi wouldn't hang for what he's accused of, surely. That's just my point, Sunshine. Yes, the young woman was stabbed, but it didn't kill her. Couldn't even say that intent was there. So this isn't the sort of case I've been expecting the Reaper to want to sink his teeth into. For want of a better phrase. Well, it's not exactly a minor infraction, is it? No, there's got to be more to it. For some reason, he's taking an interest. Because I'm possibly going to be there.
Really? What sort of reason, Inspector?
You think I can tell what's going on inside the head of that Lord of Darkness? You'll have to ask him yourself at tomorrow's trial. Are we really going to have to face the Reaper again? The Lord of Darkness, as he put it? Alright, what about Mr. Sholmes? Oh boy, music stopped. Who did you hear that name from? Oh, well, it was Mr. Natsumi who mentioned it. He said that Mr. Sholmes was with the police when they entered his lodgings.
I'm sure it was the result of one of Mr. Sholmes' inspirational great deductions.
Fiddle faddle.
Ah!
The man's an amateur. I'm getting sick and tired of him showing his mug everywhere. Oh. I don't know where he gets his information from, but he turns up at the scene of the crime, wanders around spouting incomprehensible rubbish, and before you know it, he claims to have solved the case. Yes, he's quite astounding, isn't he?
He is a great help to Scotland Yard, though, isn't he?
Gibble gabble.
Ah!
Ever seen this before? Oh, yes, that's Rant's Magazine.
The wonderful publication in which the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes appears.
Yes, well, that wonderful publication, as you put it, sees fit to include several of the Yard's detectives in its stories. And that so-called great detective makes a mockery of all of us. If you ask anyone at the Yard, it's a misadventure to be included in any of Herlock Sholmes' tales at all.
Well, I suppose there's an element of that.
We work our socks off, every one of us, only to be frumped by that public thanks by the obnoxious detectives I can't read!
Read?
The man's as dangerous to us at Scotland Yard as he is to all of our criminals.
That can't really be true, can it, Inspector?
Clearly the great detective and the police have a complex relationship. Well, I don't think we're going to get any more useful information out of our detective.
Mr. Naruhodo, can I make a suggestion?
Oh, yes? What is it?
Well, it seems to me that we must speak with him about this.
By him, do you mean Mr. Sholmes?
Yes, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, exactly.
Look at those shining eyes. You can't wait, can you? Well, Mr. Natsumi did blame Mr. Sholmes for all this, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He really did. Which makes him an involved party in the case. Are you just going to ignore that? I hope not. I assure you, it's not simply my selfish desire to meet with Mr. Sholmes again.
The trouble is, we have no idea where the man's address is. Even.
It's Baker Street.
How do you know that?
It's in the stories, of course. 221B Baker Street. The most famous address in the world.
Oh, I see. Well, there's nothing to stop us from going, I suppose. We'd better try and figure out our way there before Sasada-san gets any more excited and unpredictable.
Hooray! I'll summon a carriage.
So we're to have a reunion already. With the great detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. And that's where I'm going to leave this episode off. Mr. Sholmes. Our good old friend, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. We meet again! Alright, so next time, everybody, we're going to be meeting with Herlock Sholmes. Probably figure out why and what deduction he made to get Mr. Whatever his name was. I don't remember his name. It's just a weird... Alright, look, I haven't heard his name, like, forever, right? Calm down. So we're going to try to get this man innocent, figure out why Herlock Sholmes said he was the culprit, and what evidence he had to proclaim that. And, yeah, we're going to probably get to court either next episode or the episode after. So, yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.